We would like to let you know that BIF is a non-profit organization, and all our volunteers are like, we really work on volunteering basis. And we need to pay for the retreat fee as well. So we want to make sure that all your retreat fee, net all the cost, is donated to Ajahn's project, 100%. So we use the money wisely. And that's, we just want to make sure you know where the money goes. And also, I would like to talk about the logistic tomorrow. The checkout time is 11 o'clock in the morning, so you can put your luggage at this hall, right beside the window. Try not to leave it at the concierge because you'll overload them with a lot of luggage. So it's pretty safe, you can keep them out there. And a lot of people ask me about the China Grove retreat. It's going to be led by Ajahn Brahm in Perth, in a very nice 5-star retreat center, 15 minutes walk away from the hall, the meditation hall with a lot of power that Ajahn talked about. and you will go to Samadhi, is that right, in 5 minutes? If you sit in the front of the hall, not the back, okay? And it's going to be on the 5th to 13th in July. And I have placed the notice out there. You can start booking ticket. We usually let you book your own ticket. So we will send out email to everyone if you're interested to register. And we're going to put it on Facebook. Because a lot of people ask me about registration. I'm too busy on this, so I'm doing it after the retreat. And Ajahn Brahmali will be coming to Hong Kong, likely in October, November. He also holds retreat, 5-day retreat in Hong Kong, and hope you can join us. And also, about tomorrow, so enough promotion about tomorrow. We're going to have Ajahn Brahm doing metta meditation and blessing, and hope you can stay till 4 o'clock. And we're going to have some offerings and group photos. And for those who can help, please help us to pack the mat and spray it with the fabric disinfectant. It's over there. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoy today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
So we can go to bed now. Good night. I'll finish this first, okay. Okay. This question, no, I don't like that one. This one? No. No, I just can't do that. People, they write these questions and they care about getting a decent answer, and I would always try to give that decent answer. This question: when we practice vipassana, do we deliberately bring up the teaching, say for example impermanence, to contemplate, or just go with the flow of mind? How exactly vipassana works? First of all, if you're going to investigate things, say you're a scientist, you have to have a microscope which works, which is powerful enough. And so first of all, you always have to have a powerful mind to get insight. Otherwise, you just get the ordinary stuff which everybody else knows. It's not really deep insight. Once your mind is powerful, then you find that whatever you look at, you can see so much of, things which other people cannot see. And this is actually where your mind is powerful, to get the deep insights. If you just want ordinary insights, you don't have to get so deep in meditation. But usually, as I said, I think even today, that the cause for seeing things as they truly are, yatha bhuta, which means as they are, jnana dasanang. That's the seeing, the insight, as they truly are. That means the deep meditations, the absence of the hindrances, where your mind is just so powerful. Or some of the other experiences. Even the first year I was a monk in Thailand, during the rains retreat, there's so much rain, to do walking meditation. We did walking meditation in the hall in Thailand. It never had any carpet or any tiles on the floor. It was just concrete, laid by the villagers. And to smooth it, they would, with their trowels, if they needed a bit more water, spat on it and then leveled it. So it wasn't the type of job you'd see in a place like Hong Kong. It was very rough, and that was very helpful. Because it was so rough, we walk on it But once you started getting still and peaceful, I remember just walking meditation on that concrete surface, and I had to stop. The piece of concrete in front of me, it wasn't just grey and poorly laid. It was like I could see all the contours in it, and the different shades of grey, and the way they all sort of came together. Again, it was like a work of art. And I really thought I should cut it out to preserve it for other humanity to enjoy and send it to, say, the Tate Gallery in London, the Museum of Modern Art. I really thought that because to me it looked beautiful. If you have that type of mindfulness, then you're really ready to do vipassana. You can see the beauty in things you've never seen before, which you don't expect. Your mindfulness is strong. And you can look upon that for a long period of time. I also remember teaching this and people meditating in jhana grove, and then it was like 1 hour of rest. And so I went out of the room, and then there was one person, just as they came out of the room, just saw a beautiful plant, which was, by the side of the path. And after 1 hour, when I went back inside the hall again, they were still there looking at it. I said, good on you. You've obviously got some mindfulness. Because you see the beauty and it keeps you there. You can really see it for a long time and you can understand it. Just like I said, when I held things up, what is this? It's not just a glass of water. It's far deeper than that. When you can hold it in front of you and stay there for an hour, say, and you really look into it, you see things you never expected there. You don't put any effort, because as you're seeing it, you do see the beauty and the uniqueness in it. And that's when you have that mindfulness. You stay with it long enough to see things like anicca, dukkha, anatta. Even like anicca, people think they understand what anicca was. If you really understood, at least you'd be a stream winner. You've got to hold something for long enough to really see it. And you can do that. And sometimes in the meditation you're sitting here, you don't want to move. You're looking at something in the mind, and you really penetrate into it. And it's not just penetrating things like anicca, dukkha, anatta. What happens is, a good example is one of the ladies, a long time ago, she passed away now, she had this really very difficult job. She was in social services, and her job was to decide if there was enough danger to children that they would be taken away from their mothers, because their mothers were either drunk or on drugs, and if there was any complaint, this lady had to investigate. And out of concern for the kids, sometimes they were taken away from their parents because it was too dangerous to stay with them. Imagine the difficulty and the emotional difficulty in making those decisions. And she told me when she came on one of my retreats, she came late, trying to tie up loose ends. And after she tied up as many loose ends as she could, there were still many left. But she dropped them for the retreat. What's done is over. That Venerable Chalkun Buddhadasa's statement, what's done is finished. So she could relax and enjoy the retreat. And she told me during that retreat, she was not thinking of work, her mind was really peaceful, but then these solutions to these really difficult problems came up. And so she went to her room, she didn't want to waste too much time. She wrote down those solutions, and when she finished the retreat, they were there on a piece of paper, and she said there were amazing solutions. How she could think of that, she never knew. She didn't think of it, she saw it, these solutions to really impossible problems. And I like that way of using insight. This is worldly insight into your job, into how to do this. if you think about it, you always think like, in a certain straight line, in a rut. If you meditate, you can see beyond the usual ways of thinking, and you get insights. I told people earlier that one of the things which I kind of like doing as R&R is doing crosswords. And if there's a crossword clue which I just do not know and can't discover, I just read it and forget about it and meditate. And the answer always comes up. It's just I use this meditation even a way of solving crossword puzzles. And it works, it's amazing. So that's one of the reasons why, if you have any difficulties in your life, anything which is very hard decision to make, then just forget about it, meditate, and these innovative answers, they just come up. That's ordinary insight. To get the deep insights, again, you listen to like Dhamma talks, then you meditate. And it's like the questions are still in the mind, and then when you come out of meditation, the questions are answered. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm very afraid of ghosts, especially trading and stay in the dark, or trading or tracking or teaching and stay in the dark room. What am I afraid of, and what can I do to release the fear at once? First of all, please stop looking at ghost movies. They may entertain you, but they're totally false. We like to be excited, but the truth of ghosts they are boring. I told many of those ghost stories, true ones and false ones. I told the story of the man walking through the cemetery, haven't I? Not this time. Okay, this man was walking through the cemetery. He didn't believe in ghosts. But when he was halfway through the cemetery, he could swear that something was following him. You can feel that? Sometimes it's following you. And so he started walking faster. And as he was walking faster, whatever was following him was also coming faster. And he could swear it was going bump, bump, bump. And he made a big mistake. He looked around to see what it was. And he couldn't believe what was following him. It was a coffin. It was vertical. And all the earth was actually falling off it. It just come out of the ground. And it was following him. The scariest thing he's ever seen in his life. So he started running, which was another mistake. Because it doesn't matter how fast he ran, the coffin ran just as fast. Actually faster. It was catching up on him. And he thought, it's not that far to the cemetery gate. So he ran as fast as he could, and he got out the cemetery, just before the coffin caught up with him. And he thought, I'm safe now. Coffins belong in cemeteries, they can't go down the road. How wrong he was. As he walked the short distance from the cemetery gate to his house, he could hear the coffin behind him. Bump, 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 bump. It was catching up on him. And so he ran as fast as ever ran in his life. And by the time he got to the gate of his house, he never opened the gate. He jumped over it. He thought that coffins can't jump. So he would have a few minutes. And when he walked down the garden path, he looked around. It's true, the coffin couldn't jump. It just banged against the gate. Bang! 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 And the garden gate was giving away. It was disintegrating. That was a very strong coffin. And he got the keys to his house out of his pocket. Because he was so scared, he dropped the keys. And the coffin had broken down the garden gate and was bump, 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 coming across the path to the door. And so he picked up any old key, hoping for the best, put it in the lock. It was the correct key. Oh, he was so lucky. And so he put it in the lock, turned the lock, opened the door, jumped inside, banged the door shut, and put all the locks on. He was in his house. He was safe. So he thought. Ghostly coffins don't give up that easy. Bang! 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 As the coffin was banging against the door of his house. And he could see that coffin was so powerful that even the hinges were coming off. The front door of his house was not going to last that long. So he had an idea. The only other room which had a lock was his washroom, his toilet. So he ran up the stairs, and before he went in the washroom, he could hear bang as the coffin broke through the front door of his house with all those locks on. But he thought he had one chance. The coffin, once it was in his house, looked to the left, looked to the right. He couldn't see him. He got up the stairs. And then the coffin looked up, saw him. Bump, 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 as the coffin climbed the stairs. It was a very scary coffin. So he jumped inside the washroom, the only other room with a lock on it, locked it tight, and went against the wall of the washroom, hoping for a miracle. Miracle didn't come. Bang, bang. This coffin could break down the front door of her house. So the bathroom door, bang, and the hinges came off, and there was nothing left between this man and this psychopathic coffin. What would you do? He didn't know what to do. He spread-eagled against the wall. The coffin was coming towards him. He reached for anything to throw at that coffin. This is where he was so lucky. He picked up a bottle of medicine, threw it at the coffin, and it broke on the coffin's wood, and all this brown, smelly liquid came out. And the coffin stopped. It never moved again. It was cough medicine. That's what it stops the coffin. That's a coffin joke. But anyway, you know, and I said this to a few of you, any people had any problems with fear of ghosts, the truth is that I'm being serious now, ghosts are scared of you. You have much more power. You look at the cosmology of Buddhism, the human realm. What's the level underneath the human realm? What's the level underneath the animals? That's a ghost. We're 2 levels above them. The only thing they can do is make us scared, but they can't harm us. And if you're a monk, you know that. That's why if you go to any house which is supposed to be haunted, you go into that haunted place, boo, you say to the ghost, and they run away. And that's truth, that's experience. Because they know if you realize that you're more powerful than them, they've got no power over you at all. And if it is a real ghost, there's something about the ghosts which is strange. I think I mentioned that earlier. The ghosts, they know lottery numbers. So if one comes to your room, please ask them for the lottery number and then run away. And if they do give you the lottery number, remember where you got this advice from. So 10% goes to Biff. Sometimes you think this is a joke, but actually it's true. They can't harm you. It'll just make you scared. They give you lovely stories to tell. When one experiences death, these are good questions this evening. When one experiences death and the light, they may enter jhanas and maybe have beings, but bliss, but wisdom is not fully developed. How does one develop jhana and wisdom? Precepts, paramita, 4 foundations of mindfulness, factor in enlightenment. Look, if you do die, you have to let go of something. A lot of your attachments and all your possessions, you can't take them with you, even if you ask your wife to put the 2 suitcases above your bed. So you have to let go when you die. So when you actually do that, there's already an act of renunciation, of letting go. You realize that, these things don't belong to you. Even your body doesn't belong to you. It's like a temporary abiding. And okay, here's another story. That there was this old couple, they'd been married for years. And so when one of them died, a few days later, the other one died as well. I've seen this happen many times. They're so close together. When one dies, the other one loses their purpose in life, so they die as well. So they were good people. So they were members of Biff. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating there. But they were good people. And then they appeared in heaven together. And when they appeared to heaven together, this angel came and said, "You've both been really good people, very kind. I've come to show you your heavenly reward." And there's this big, beautiful, expensive mansion, close to the cliffs. The $1 billion location. And the mansion was huge. And he said, "Because of your good karma, this is your heavenly reward, this mansion." And the man said, "Look, I'm on a low salary. I won't be able to afford the government taxes on a house like this." And the angel said, "Sir, there's no government up in heaven. That's why it's called heaven." No taxes. Really? Yes, for free. And he took them inside the mansion. All had incredibly beautiful rooms. And in the lounge room, this was this huge TV. The TV was about 20 meters wide. And he said, "We know how much you like soccer, English soccer. And we know that you supported Liverpool. So you can watch Liverpool play anytime you like." And it's such a big TV that, it's almost like being in Anfield. My father supported Liverpool, so I know Anfield. In those days, one of the things I remember, he took me up there when I was a kid, and everybody was just so kind. When I said I lived in London, I said, "Oh really? Welcome." And they were so kind. "You got any programs?" That hospitality was something which I never expected, which was there. So anyway, you can watch the game anytime you like. And also, because this is heaven, your team will always be losing until the last 5 minutes, and then they score 2 goals, and they will be winning. It's heaven. We can't allow you to be sad that your team loses. And then he showed them into the bathroom. The bathroom, he said, had this toilet made out of gold. And he said, "And see, there's the cistern. So when you press that button, be careful of that button. That's not sort of a metal button. That's a diamond. A real 25 carat diamond there. So when you press it, water doesn't come out. This is heaven. Chanel number 5. You're rubbing your eyes. And took them down to the garage. Oh no, first of all he said, look, there's so much expensive stuff here. I won't be able to afford the insurance premiums. Do you have to have insurance for your house in case a thief comes in? And the angel said, sir, we don't allow thieves up in heaven. This is all for free. You don't need insurance. And if there's anything you don't like, if you'd rather have a ruby than a diamond to press on the toilet, so Chanel number 5 is not your favorite perfume, just let me know and I'll change it straight away. No charge. This is heaven, your reward. Took them down to the garage. A triple garage. And the first car was a stretch limousine. It was so big, it had a swimming pool in the back. The next car was a go-anywhere vehicle. And this is such a strong vehicle, about not 4-wheel drive, about 10-wheel drive. And this is so strong it can go anywhere. It can even go up waterfalls. And the last car, he said, we knew in your life you always liked fast car, no sports car. This is a limited edition Lamborghini with a sunroof. And he said, you know, I always wanted to have a fast car, but what's the point of having fast cars in Hong Kong? You know, you get too many traffic jams. And if you do go fast, the policemen catch you and you have to pay a big fine. He said, look, there's no police here. You can go as fast as you like. It doesn't matter. And you don't have to worry about accidents. You're already dead. And then they opened the garage doors. On the opposite side of the road to the garage was this immaculate 18-hole golf course. We knew how you always loved to play a round of golf. So we arranged this golf course for you as a heavenly reward on the opposite side of your house or your mansion. He said that golf course was actually designed by Tiger Woods. But he said, but Tiger Woods is still alive. But he had his out-of-body experience when, after his divorce from his wife, when she found out he was having an affair, he crashed the car. In those few moments he was unconscious. That's where he grabbed him in an out-of-body experience to go up to heaven to design your golf course. And because it's a heavenly golf course, as long as you get the ball onto the green, whichever way you putt it, it will always go into the hole. We don't want to have you suffering by getting the ball just on the side of the hole. It always goes in. And he looked at the golf club and said, look, that's a very elite golf club. There's no way I can afford the annual fees. Sir, you don't have to pay annual fees. You mean I'm a life member? No, you're a death member. And that's when the angel went away. And as soon as the angel went away, this man got so upset with his wife, started scolding her and shouting at her, and she couldn't understand why. And when she had a pause from her husband, enough to say something, she asked, why are you so upset? We've got this beautiful mansion. We've got, this big TV, you can watch football all day and you won't get disappointed because your team will always win. And you can go in the Lamborghini, go as fast as you like, and you'll be totally safe. And you can go on the opposite side of the road to play a round of golf whenever you like. Why are you so upset with me? And that's when he said, because, wife. Because, wife. If it wasn't for all that healthy food you gave me, I could have been up here years ago. Do you eat healthy food? You're putting off the time in heaven, delaying some bliss. I remember telling that story at a funeral service. The first time I told a joke at a funeral service. And I remember, I think it's pretty much the same over here. You have these funeral attendants, and they sit in the back. They're always dressed in black. They really look miserable. And as I was telling this funny story, they couldn't interrupt me. They just went, "Oh, stop." But I wasn't going to give it that easy. I told the whole story, and the family said, "We're very happy to have you come and do the funeral service for us." Because they never liked to be more miserable. They were always suffering because of their loved one died. So if you have a funeral, would you like me to come and tell funny stories at your death? If I do, you must promise not to laugh in the coffin. Because that it starts shaking and people really get worried. So that's actually so death is not bad at all. Dying is difficult sometimes, but death itself is a great relief. The problem is that these days that death needs a PA makeover. People think it's terrible, and it's not. And monks should know, especially Buddhists, we've died many times. If you want to know the experts on death, don't ask the Christians, they only die once. We're the experts, more experience. So actually, the truth is that death is nothing to be scared of. And anyway, the more scared you are, the more you destroy your time when you're living. People always ask me, how do you die well? By living well. The quality of your life, if that's good, then the death doesn't matter at all. Look, what car did you use to come here? Is it an old car? If you have an old car and someone offers you a new vehicle, would you take it? That's what death is. You've got this old body, wearing out, hard to walk, hard to hear, have to have glasses which always fall off your nose, and you've got no strength. But I always say, as you get older, there's one part of your body gets stronger. What is it, Della? Mouth, yeah, you can really talk. But it's nice to have the rest of your body that healthy as well. So when you get reborn, you can have a nice new body. Good idea? Anyway. So, when one experiences death and the light, it may enter the jhanas. When you see the light, it means especially if it's a very bright light, you're not scared of it. It does mean that, your hindrances are getting very weak. And it happens that so many times people get those stages of enlightenment at their dying process. Because you're already letting go, that's pretty much in the center of your mind. And you have this beautiful light, if you enter it as a jhana. And that's one of the reasons why people get so many insights. I think some of you said you knew that Anita Moorjani in Hong Kong. I never met her, but I met her GP, Dr. Brian Walker. The reason why I met the GP of Anita Moorjani, because he moved to Australia. He said that experience changed his whole life and attitude towards medicine. He found this nice little surgery in Western Australia which needed a doctor, and the surgery was in the town of Serpentine. If you heard that word before, serpentine, in Western Australia? That's where my monastery and jhana grove is. Do I have a GP? Dr. Brian Walker. The same GP as the GP of Anita Moorjani. That's true, that's not a joke, that's real. I hardly ever see him because I never get sick. But anyway, the last time I met him, he's a really good Buddhist. He comes to the monastery, looks after the monks. Really nice man. But anyway, that's what happened with her. And this is one of the reasons why I was interested in her story. She was a Christian, a Catholic, I believe. So when she left her body and went towards that light, you know what she called that light? She went into that light. She called it union with God. And I can understand that. If you can enter the first jhana, kind of that's what it feels like. You're not there. In a sense, your sense of self is diminished or gone. And you're just experiencing bliss. If you were brought up as a Christian, that's what it would feel like. But the interesting part was when she came out of that experience, she got insight. And the insight was the cause of her cancer. Was trying to live up to other people's expectations. She was a very brilliant person. I forget what job she had, but she was very successful. But to her, it was never good enough. And that tension was what was causing her cancer. She saw that once she came out from the light. And so when she came back into her body, that was the first thing she told the doctors. My cancer is gone. And they thought she was, not lucid anymore. They still under the influence of the anesthetic. It was crazy. She still had many tumors, but she got it right. The cause of her cancer, trying to please others, had been disappeared, and she made a full recovery, as you all know. Do any of you know her? You do? I read the book. Met her. How is she?
She's very healthy. She lives in California.
In California she's moved now. That's a bad choice. There's lots of fires there. But anyhow, it was nice to actually to see that story. I get a bit disappointed because, for a Christian, that's union with God. So if any of you got a jhana, say Gerald got a jhana, and it was confirmed, then they'd be naming hospitals here. St. Gerald's Hospital, or St. Gerald's School, because union with God makes you a saint. But in Buddhism, we don't get anything. For the same experience. Anyway, I shouldn't go there. So anyway, that's actually how it works when you die. Good fun. I think so. That's why I tell monks, if they have any operations and they have to have an anesthetic, which knocks them out, I say, please, make a resolution before you take the anesthetic and you go unconscious to leave your body. And come and let me know how you're going. None of them have done that yet. I'm disappointed in them. There's one man, he used to be a Burmese, he could leave his body very easily. And so he got a job fixing air conditioners up in Darwin. And he would leave his body. He was very jealous of his wife. His wife was an English lady, not a Buddhist, but a very good person. And so when he would come into their house to check that she wasn't misbehaving, she would feel him in the house. This is how she told me. I said to her husband, Keith, Look, I'm a faithful. I don't have any other guys in the house. Go back to Darwin. She could feel him in the house. It was so true. Another guy, a Serbian, he could leave his body. He was in jail. He didn't mind being in jail. If he wanted to watch a movie, he'd just go into his cell and sit quietly and go and watch the movie, leave his body and go and see it. Even like a football match. He'd just go. And no one knew who was missing, because he was in his, what they call sometimes, mind-made body or astral body. Would you like to do that? You can check up on your husband, see if he's behaving while you're on retreat. It's possible. Anyway, you mentioned start watching the space when you do breathing meditation. Can you explain and share what this space refers to, what to pay attention to? Thank you. Space is what's between us, what's between the ceiling and your head, to the left, to the right. Imagine the air like a sea around you, like a body of water, so that it connects us and keeps us healthy, this air. And so when you can do this, you can actually understand just what this space is. And there's more space than there are people. And once you understand that, you also know whatever thinking you're doing, there's more space between the thoughts than thoughts themselves. We don't pay attention to the spaces, we only pay attention to the thoughts. When a thought finishes, before the next thought arises, there is always a gap. We don't notice it. And after a while, when you start noticing the spaces between the thoughts, like the pauses between my words, it's far more profound and beautiful. And after a while, you lose your interest in thoughts and prefer the silence. It also means any of you have any difficulty sleeping at night, that's what you can do. Instead of listening to the thoughts all the time, just listen to the gaps between the thoughts. It's way more peaceful. Can you please explain why you use the word consciousnesses instead of consciousness, please? Thank you for noticing that. The reason I use the word consciousnesses is because seeing is very different than hearing, which is very different than feeling, very different than smelling, tasting, and knowing. But what actually happens if you see this series of different consciousnesses happen, to make it easy if you understand, I use the fruit salad simile. You have a plate in front of you, and then a apple appears on the plate. The apple disappears, and then the coconut comes. The coconut disappears, and then the banana. The banana disappears, and then the coconut. And the coconut disappears, and then cauliflower appears. Each one of these is like different fruits. The coconut represents your mind. Apple, your eye, sight. Cauliflower, ear. What was the nose thing? I forget now. But anyway, different fruits appear, always followed by a coconut. The coconut is your mind. Once you know what this mind is, you can recognize it. You find that every one of the five senses is always followed by the mind. It's not as you see, but then you know you saw. It's not like you just hear, then you know you heard. It's not just you feel, you know you felt. The mind always follows each one. And because of that, it appears as a continuity of consciousness. But it's not. It's different consciousnesses arise one after the other. Of course, you have to be very mindful, suspend what you want to see, and see what's actually there. And you see how this flow of experience is different consciousnesses arising one after the other. When I call them consciousnesses instead of consciousness, it makes it more easy to see. And they're all very different. A lot of times, if one is just in meditation, it's just coconut after coconut after coconut. You know, and then you know that you knew. That's the answer to the Descartes problem, not the joke question. With the Descartes, I think, therefore I am. That's wrong. I think, therefore I was. I know, I knew. When you put the time in it, that philosophical statement is understood. You have an idea, and then you know that you have that idea, or you had that idea. Okay, I didn't do this question. I know I didn't do this question. I can't stop thinking about your amazing story about Ajahn Chah walking out of the sauna and asking you, why? Could you please elaborate on his answer of, there is nothing? I assumed an answer to a why question must logically start with, because this was, because. But this was not the case. It was much more absolute than that. Because means there was something there. Why was saying there's nothing? Don't you understand? No, you don't. That's like the emptiness of it. I intend to contemplate this more. Great, after the retreat. My hints, any hints will help. Please try to put more of your books on Audible. They are so lovely to listen to while hiking. While hiking, sometimes if you're hiking, I always like doing one thing at a time. And if I'm hiking and listening, I'm not paying much attention to one of those. It's just like when you're driving. Can you be listening to one of my talks when you're driving? I had this, he was an Anagarika, he's now a monk, Venerable Jayako from Penang. I think some of you may know him. But when he was my driver, sometimes I'd tell stories, and sometimes they were funny stories, like jokes, just like the the ghost in the coffin, you know, bang, 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 and the cough mixture stopped the coffin. And when he would hear those, he couldn't help but laughing, really quite violently. And he was driving the car at the time, and he was laughing. The car was going all over the place. And I had to stop, telling jokes like that because it was dangerous. He was losing control of the car. And a few times, I'm glad there wasn't a policeman there, they would have checked his breath to see if there's any alcohol. Why you just can't drive the car in a straight line? So it's nice doing one thing at a time, especially if it really is deep Dhamma. If it's ordinary Dhamma, fine, you can hike and you can listen. But if it's deep Dhamma, you should be sitting still to allow those teachings to go deep inside of you. Next question. How do I forgive my husband's betrayals without feeling like I'm excusing his behavior? How does Buddha's forgiveness differ from accepting harm? How it differs, I think I had mentioned this in one of the talks here. You don't just forgive, you give him parole. What parole means is you say, well, I can't trust you the same way I trusted you earlier, so what I'm going to do is you have to give me all your passwords, access to all your devices for 1 year or 6 months. Depends on how long parole you need to give him. And if I need to ask any questions, how come you were late? Where were you? You have to give honest answers and allow me to check up on you. That's parole. And I did that to this one couple, and it worked brilliantly. Now, he had been unfaithful, and his wife was devastated, and she said, I can't trust him anymore. I mean, how can you? But he said, look, I will never do that again, and he really meant it. So I said, give him parole. You have to have access to all of his devices and accounts to check up on him for 6 months. He has to win back that trust, and he did. That was quite a few years ago. And now that both of them come to the monastery, they're very good disciples. You know, they did love each other, but he was hurting her, and he realized it, and he said he'll never ever do that again, and he didn't. It was a wonderful thing. You don't accept harm. Forgiveness has to come with some guarantees. And that was the guarantee. You can check all my devices. I won't cheat on you again. In a workplace, those who are more capable are often assigned with more duties. Yes. Monks know that. So a lot of the time the monks deliberately just mess up. So they don't have to do so much work. Sometimes when you give talks, there's so many invitations to give talks. So some monks give really bad talks on purpose. So they can stay at the monastery and have a nice peaceful life. There's enough monks like Ajahn Brahm and myself, so they think, well, they can get the head monks. I'm not needed, so they give bad talks on purpose. Can you do that? No, sometimes it depends just on your kindness. I told many of you, please exploit me. I like giving talks and I like just helping out. That's just my character. Some monks are not like that. So you do what you can do. They're given more duties, but you can always say no. Make a mistake. Why on earth do you always have to be so perfect? While those who underperform often have an easier time. Yeah. This unfair situation often upsets the hard-working, capable ones. They should get the message. Like a good example of that, this is one disciple, not a monk, but when we were talking about rebirth, he said, when I die, I want to get reborn as a dog in the future. What do you want to get reborn as a dog for? Well, look, dogs in Australia, they get free health care, they get the best food, and they don't have to do any work at all. It's totally stress-free. All they do is to take their owner for a walk every morning. And I've seen this. Some of the dogs get tired, and the owner actually picks them up and carries them home. And actually, this guy was a male, so I couldn't help but tell him, dogs in Australia, when they're a certain sort of months old, they get taken to the vet to get desexed. I remember seeing his face. I never thought of that. I don't want to be a dog in my next life. That's a true story. Anyway, us Australian men. But this unfair situation often upsets the hard-working, capable ones. How should we face this unfair situation and not being upset? Look, if your work is really important, like my work, I never get upset if I have to work harder. It's a privilege to work harder, to give talks and help as many people as I possibly can. That's why I never get upset. If you count the hours which I work in my trip to Hong Kong, 7 days a week, I don't know how many hours, I could make a claim of exploitation. How many hours I work, I'm happy to do that. How to overcome negative mindset negative mindset heading around the mind, and also critical mindset. Instead of being critical, look at the beautiful things. There's one guy I remember counseling who had very serious depression. And so I just talked with him, and I asked him, just what happened this morning? And he said, well, when I woke up in the morning, I asked my wife for a bowl of ice cream for breakfast. And she gave it to me. And then I asked for a second bowl of ice cream. Because I was depressed, she gave it to me. I said, there you go. That's the advantage of being depressed. She would never give that to you if you were healthy. And he looked at me and said, actually, that's correct. So I said, see, there's many benefits in being depressed. Whenever you have a good day, you don't feel depressed. Don't tell your wife. Otherwise, you'll never get any more ice cream in the morning. He said, yeah, I never looked at it that way. I say, and you don't have to go to work when you're depressed. You can take time off work. That's another benefit. Hey, I never thought of it like that. When you start to see the many benefits and advantages of being depressed, you can't get depressed anymore. But don't tell your wife, okay? That's our secret. Dear Ajahn Brahm, what are some ways to get your family members to be interested in Dharma and meditation? That's pretty easy. When they see the advantages. I tried this with, actually, hasn't been, this was one of you know who you are. You said your husband would really benefit from some Dhamma. And this is what's similar to what happened in Perth. There's a Malaysian Buddhist who said, my Australian husband, he's a good man. I know he will really like, these teachings on meditation. But, he just doesn't like religion, that's all. I said, easy. I said, get one of my books, that Opening the Door of Your Heart. This is another true story. I'm just going off on a tangent here. People like that book, and it's been very popular and very helpful. So one of the disciples in Adelaide, she went looking for it in the bookshop. And they said, we got a copy. So off she went looking for it. She couldn't find it. So she went to the counter. I thought you said you had this book. Yeah, we do. I couldn't find it. And they found out they'd put it in the wrong section. It was in the medical section of heart surgery. Honestly. So I'm now a recognised heart surgeon in South Australia anyway. But this particular story, now that's the trouble with going off on tangents. Now what was I saying in the first place? Oh yeah. So I told this Malaysian lady, get a copy of this book. When you take it home, tell your husband, this is my book. This is religious, okay? So keep your hands off it, husband. And I know men in Australia And the psychology of that, my wife can't tell me what I can read, what I can't read. And so when she was out shopping somewhere, I'm not standing for this, so he read it. The whole book in one go, from cover to cover. And now he comes to my temple every week. It actually worked. I'm very tricky as a monk. You know, when we were working really hard, this is my trickiness as a monk. I can say it to you here now because none of my monks in Australia are here. You know, sometimes, we had to do really hard work, especially, building. And sometimes shoveling sand, shoveling earth, and building and moving this and moving that. And sometimes the monks, they tried their very best, especially the Anagarikas, the laymen helping us. And so I had lots of Thai supporters, and I said to them, I honestly did, I said, can you please come and help on the weekend? We're doing a lot of heavy work. They said, well, no, we're not strong enough to do all that wheelbarrowing and stuff. So you don't need to actually push the wheelbarrows. What I want you to do is to dress up, lots of makeup and scent, and just stand around while the men are pushing the wheelbarrows. It works. I don't know what it is with guys, but when pretty girls stand around watching, they always push the wheelbarrows faster. I was exploiting them. And the Thai ladies knew what I was up to. They cooperated. It's amazing how much work we get done that way. Am I being fair or exploiting my monks and Anagarikas? I think I'm exploiting them. How can we introduce meditation to the senior communist, senior as a way to embrace marriage depression? No. What does this actually say? I think it's written in Cantonese. How do we introduce meditation to the senior communities as a way to embrace, manage depression? Oh, look, it's well known to lessen depression, but you have to do whatever teaching you do to actually senior communities, I think elderly, is actually to make it fun. If you make it boring, those poor seniors, they get depressed even more. So please make it funny. And if it's like someone who's already old themselves, it's not that hard. So that's one of the reasons why we need more elderly people. Who's older than me? I'm 73 or 74. Anyone older than me here? My goodness, do I have to do everything? There was this one time, and this was actually brilliant, when I'm teaching in the school, and meditation or Buddhism. The school wanted to know what actually is Buddhism, and it was in a Christian area. It wasn't a Christian school, it was an ordinary school, a state school, but mostly Christians went there. And so I didn't mind helping out. So I went there, and it's only after I got there I realised this was grade 1s and grade 2s. How on earth can you teach dependent origination to 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds? And actually I started off by, when they all settled down, first of all, because I had a bald head and a brown robe, I had their attention. I was strange. And I'll never forget that. With little kids, they're looking at you from the beginning. So their parents were, their teachers were there, and I said, how many of you, don't like rice pudding? Rice pudding is like a Western dish. It's just rice with milk and sugar. I used to have that often as a dessert when I was young. And the reason I had it as a dessert because it was cheap, easy to make. In a poor family. So I asked the kids, how many of you don't like rice pudding? These are, again, 5 or 6 year olds. A couple of kids, boys and girls, they put their hand up, they didn't like rice pudding. And the rest of the kids, they looked around, see what was going on. And they saw 2 or 3 kids with their hands up, so 2 or 3 more kids put their hands up. It was like peer pressure. And then more kids put their hands up. Until you had the whole 60 kids in this group, all with their hands up. They did not like rice pudding. Okay, put your hands down. Now please put your hands up if you've ever eaten rice pudding. And only about 4 kids put their hands up. And I said, now that's dependent origination of where wrong view comes from. And all the parents laughed and the teachers. A good one. That's how you teach youngsters. By seeing, by example. On another occasion in Singapore, there's this little kindergarten group called, I think, Little Gems. It was Wesak Day. They said, Ajahn Brahm, can you teach our classes how to appreciate Wesak? Yeah, okay, give it a try. And it's very little kids. And so I said, Wesak represents the birth of the Buddha. And that's first of all. I know when the Buddha was born, apparently he walked 7 steps. So all stand in a line. Imagine, just pretend you're the Buddha just born and walk 7 steps. And at that 7 steps, put your finger up. I am the chief in the world, this is my life. Not that finger, kids, the other finger. And they did that. They were actually exercising and imagining. But then I got to, the Buddha then was enlightened in Bodh Gaya. And they had a big Buddha statue there. See how the Buddha's got his legs. Now sit down on the floor and cross your legs like that. And they could all do that. And put your right hand over your left hand, as in the Buddha statue. If monkeys could do that, the kids could do that. And straighten your back, and then close your eyes, and imagine you're the Buddha. This was a brilliant thing. And I was hesitating doing this, because when I do it, I just love it. Just imagine you're newly enlightened. You've got no more problems in the whole world. Nothing to do. Nothing to worry about, nothing to achieve. You've done what needed to be done. You don't have to worry about any homework anymore. You don't have to pass any tests. You're a Buddha. No worries, no concerns. You don't have to fight your little sister anymore. You're free. You don't have any anger or ill will. And even the birds, they love you. You're a Buddha. I went on like this, and I was getting peaceful, just imagining what it must be like to be a Buddha, newly enlightened. And the kids got it very easily, and even the parents and the teachers were really blissing out, just using their imagination. And then I said, now it's time to stop, and the teacher said, no, carry on. And the people who took me to this venue, I went on for about 15 minutes. I had all these 6-year-olds and 5-year-olds really enjoying imagination of what it's like to be the Buddha. It's called Buddhanusati, reflection on the Buddha. But it was not like just reflecting, it was imagining. Because I remember one of the teachers when I was small said, stand up, imagine you're a tree, pull your arms out, and your waving around in the wind. You're a nice little tree, lots of birds taking refuge in you and giving shade to all the people underneath. I still remember that, and it was lovely. I was teaching in a way that the kids would understand. It wasn't just the kids. All the parents, I was going to give a talk that evening in Singapore. They said, "Why have you never taught that way to us?" So that evening, I talked to all these members of a Buddhist society and a Buddhist fellowship, whatever it was, in Singapore, and said, "No, just like I taught the kids, imagine you're a Buddha, newly enlightened. You've got no more financial worries. You don't have to go to work and worry about your job. You're enlightened now. You're free. You don't have to worry about sickness or getting these things checked up. You don't have to worry about your husband or your wife. Buddhas don't have those. So you're free. Imagine what that must feel like. Totally free. Don't have to worry about food. You know, if you don't get enough on alms, the heavenly beings, they love feeding a Buddha. So you're totally free. They loved it too." Now you're going to ask me tomorrow, Ajahn Brahm, can you do that? I enjoyed it to the max as well. Anyway, how can we cultivate an island of refuge to themselves? There are so many teachings out there. How can we cultivate an island of refuge to themselves? There's so many teachings out there, but it's like there's so much food this morning for your breakfast and lunch. Is that true? Did you eat it all? Did you eat all the food on the tables? You left some, didn't you? That's our life. We have buffets every day of great teachings. So you take the food on the buffet of Buddhism, which you need, and it really helps you get healthy. You don't have to eat everything. You don't have to practice every method of meditation all at the same time. That's impossible. So you take what you need. And when you take what you need, soon actually you grow in the Dhamma, and you never get negative to the things which you don't like. As I think I mentioned to you, or somewhere, that I'm allergic to things like apples and to honey. But I never say, "Okay, I can't eat honey, so none of you can either." That's really unfair. I always make sure that for those who like honey or apples, there's plenty there available for you. If you need something else, I'll make sure there's that available for you as well, if I possibly can. It's now 8:04. No, it's plenty of time. Next question. There's many more left here, so if you need to go to the toilet, don't wait. Just go. For people I do not like, and I like to... For people I do not like, and I like too much, how to apply unconditional loving kindness. Often there are too much inner speeches related to those people and cause no peace. It's so easy to do loving kindness to all people, even people I don't like. And how you do that, you start with things you do like. I will explain this tomorrow when I do a loving kindness meditation. I usually start with something which I find easy to give loving kindness towards. It has to be an imaginary person, and me, an imaginary being, a little cat who's been abandoned, hasn't got a mother, who's been beaten up, hungry, afraid, terrified. And I'll do the whole meditation tomorrow. To me, that actually pulls up my heartstrings. I imagine this, and I start getting all this kindness, compassion to this imaginary being. And once it gets strong, then I imagine a real being, like a friend. Someone I've known for a long time. And I imagine them right before me. And it's easy to love them. They may not be hurting or be ill now, but they are just like this little kitten. They are sensitive, and they can be hurt very easily. They may not show it, but just like each one of you, in the interview, some of you told me just what's been going on in your life. It really hurts. You don't deserve it. I wish that would never happen to you. But you know that all these people are vulnerable. And when I see what could happen, probably won't, but that makes me have loving kindness towards you. And then usually, I just imagine, I have my eyes closed at this time, all the people in this room. Just know how each one of you are vulnerable. It's so easy to get disappointed and suffering and hurt. And I give you so much loving kindness, and you give loving kindness back to me. We give loving kindness together. We share it in this whole room. And then I even now, I've done this so many times, I can feel like a tingling in my chest. That's what happens when you do loving kindness. It's a physical manifestation of it. It's usually in this heart area. And I don't try and get rid of that. I encourage it, make it bigger and stronger. I imagine a little kitten close to my heart, feeling safe for the first time in its life. It's got someone to look after it. Its mother, I don't know where the mother went, but now it's got a monk who can be a surrogate mother for it. And sometimes monks can be so soft and kind to little beings. And then it's easy to develop loving kindness. Then I make it even bigger. I spread this like a rays of loving kindness to each one of you, and I can feel your rays of loving kindness coming into me. And then it goes to all the people in this hotel, even people I don't even know. Those staff looking after us up here, the staff in the Essence restaurant who always look after me at lunchtime, and to all beings in this hotel. Even the people just coming in, to the birds which land on the roof, to maybe even some mice in the kitchen, I don't know, but they're welcome as far as I'm concerned. And then after a while, you spread it over the rest of Hong Kong. May all beings in this city, there's some who've hurt you, doesn't matter, we still give them forgiveness and kindness. That's very beneficial for them. When they feel that softness, they will treat us much better. And it goes over the whole world. It goes over the whole world to all beings. And you can't stop it. And then you realize you're giving this loving kindness, to all these presidents like Donald Trump and others. They need it. It's not they deserve it. You give it anyway. May all beings be happy and well, and all animals as well. All birds in the sky and creepy crawlies in the ground. That's why they never bite me. Because they feel safe. Yeah, they may be in a bad mood, but if you're a snake, no one likes you. That's why I like snakes. I feel empathy for them. And so all these beings, and you spread them, and you find that when your loving kindness is strong, it actually warms everything. Just like the sun. The sun warms and shines on everybody. And it doesn't distinguish one being a good being from a bad being. It gives light, kindness and warmth to all who are underneath it. And that's how it becomes so easy. And then afterwards, I come out, oh my goodness, I gave loving kindness to that terrible person who beat me and hit me and treated me badly. But you'll never regret that. The beings who are really disturbed, they need it the most. Second question. Can ayahuasca, psychedelic herb, help going into deep meditation? No. And I say that because I've never had that. But I talk to other monks, and basically I always felt it was unnecessary. Because to get into deep meditation, you let go of things, you don't add things. You allow things to disappear and have your mindfulness really clear and strong. But I must admit, that stuff was not available when I was young. At least it may have been, but I didn't know anything about it. And also, I think I told some people here that when my friends were starting to take drugs in the 60s and 70s in UK, they were freely available. But before I took any drugs, one of my best friends took some marijuana. He got caught, and he said his home life was a hell realm for him. He really upset his parents. And at that time, my father was really sick. He would die soon. And I thought, I can't kill my own father this way. If I did take drugs and he found out, he would die. That's how weak he was at the time. I just couldn't do that. So it's like love for my father was actually, I'm being honest here, totally 100% true. That stopped me taking drugs. And when he did die, I was already getting into Buddhism. And I trusted those teachings. You don't need those drugs to be really happy and healthy. And how wonderful that teaching was. When I started university and I started meditating, because I realized you don't need drugs. Any drugs. I was fortunate. Kind of lucky, you might say. And also later on, there's one of my colleagues from school also went to University of Cambridge to study medicine. He was a brilliant man, studying medicine at Cambridge. But by that time, he'd already taken many drugs and got addicted to heroin. And I remember that his addiction to heroin got worse and worse. And my friends, our common friends, they'd never let him come into their houses because he would steal. He had no option because he had to find money to pay for this drug which he really needed. And that's why he stole from his friends. And his genius, eventually when I did see him many years later, he got a job just mowing lawns for people, a gardener. And it's kind of such a waste. When I saw that, I kind of think, oh my goodness, I wish he hadn't have taken those drugs in the first place. It ruined his life, totally. Anyway, if you're so happy, someone envy you and bully you, should we pretend to be sad to make them happy? That's a very nice thought, but it doesn't make them happy. It just makes two sad people in the world rather than one. That's a nice question, though. That's why I didn't say this yet. But I remember reading, I can't find the story behind this, that there was one monk who was really, really, really good looking. This was in the time of the Buddha. And because he was so good looking, he decided to eat a lot till he became fat and became less attractive. That's my excuse. And I would say that more often, but I can't find the quote. Anyway, when I focus on breathing, I may feel that the chest is blocked and breath cannot go down, or control the breathing or body. Look, I have been teaching meditation for over 50 years. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I haven't had a casualty yet. Perfect record. No one dies or gets sick. Many people cure their cancers. Many people get really healthy. Many people get very happy and content, but no one has died because of my teachings of meditation. Honest. Check me out. So don't be afraid. Your breath will find a way to come in and go out. It always does. So trust your breath. It will find a way. You don't need to control the breathing. Trust it. And the body move, e.g. the neck is moving. If that happens, that's, you've seen that many times. And some people, their head is moving around. And they say, what's happening? And I say, if that's what the body needs to do, let it do that. It's the body's way of healing. On one meditation retreat, that someone interrupted me. I was meditating and they tapped me on the shoulder. I wasn't meditating deeply. He said, look at that lady. And she had her body twisted around. I can't demonstrate. If I twisted the way that she was twisted, you'd have to take me to hospital. It was really extreme. And of course, I'm worried about her now. So I waited till she came out of meditation, took her aside and said, ma'am, when you were meditating, you were really twisted. I said, no, I wasn't. I said, you couldn't see you. I could, and this other lady could as well. How do you feel now? I said, I feel fantastic. I feel really good. And then I figured out I'd been stupid. And I said, when did you have your car accident? Ajahn Brahm, you've read my mind. I never told you that. I'm sure I never told you that. How do you know I had a car accident? Just add 2 and 2, make 4. You were so twisted around. That car accident must have been very critical, severe. When you're meditating, you're letting go. And your body takes the opportunity to heal itself. It twists around. And when you come out of meditation, it comes back to usual. And you feel so much better. It allows flows of energy to happen where they're all blocked off before. Trust your body. And sometimes people have hot spots in your back, say, or in your shoulders, or in your lower neck. If that happens, I ask you, again, when did you have that whiplash? Because that's one of the common injuries after a car crash. The head moves very quickly, and you bruise so much of your back, especially your neck. And that's where the body takes the opportunity to move in a weird way. And when you ask a person, how do you feel afterwards? I feel great, best ever. It's because the body knows how to heal itself. You need to trust it. So if you go into a weird posture when you're meditating, good on you. It's a way to go. Trust your body. And vomiting gas and making sounds disturb others. What should I do? Give them earplugs. So they don't need to hear it. This is your body again looking after itself. And you shouldn't disturb that. It's 8:30. You still okay? 8:30? There's only a few more to go. Trust the body. And if you're sitting next to someone who's making sounds like that, remember they're healing. Whatever it is, the body is relaxing enough to be able to do that. When you tense up and try and stop that, that creates all sorts of other physical problems within you. Remember this occasion. There was on a Friday night in Perth. We usually start with half an hour meditation, followed by an hour's talk. When I did this on a Friday afternoon, there was one lady who came into our hall, and she was sitting just like everybody else, but then she lay down with her feet pointing towards the Buddha, and she started to go asleep. And soon, some of these, I'm ashamed to say, disciples, woke her up, saying, look, you're falling asleep, you're disturbing everybody, you've got your feet pointed towards the Buddha. That's disrespectful. Come on, sit on a chair. And afterwards I told those disciples off. That lady was having severe domestic abuse. Husband hitting her. And when she came into our place, for the first time in days, she felt safe. And her body just told her, just lay down, to take a rest. And I told everybody, if that ever happens again, if you want to do anything, please get her a pillow or a cushion, put it under her head. She's been so tense. I don't know if you've actually experienced domestic abuse and violence. And how can you even rest? You're afraid. When they came in our Buddhist group, it's a kind place, and she could feel that. And her body just said, lay down and have a rest. She hadn't slept for weeks. That's what she's told me. But the people got the message. Don't try and control people. Be kind to them. If that's you, you can lay down and go to sleep any time. And you may be snoring, and I would never control you. I just make sure you're safe and comfortable. That makes sense to you? Would you please share the story of the reincarnation of an Australian eating disorder girl, please? I know one of you asked for that story. It was stories of rebirth. So, there was this, are you okay listening to this? Okay. If you get tired, then just go to bed, this is all recorded. But this hypnotherapist, it actually works. That people get hypnotized and you're asked to go back into your previous lives. And sometimes people, they don't even believe in rebirth, but it actually works somehow. So we had this young girl with anorexia. Sometimes I looked in the dictionary, what does anorexia really mean? And what I read there, I thought, wow. Anorexia was defined in this dictionary, make it easy to understand. You look in the mirror and you think you're fat. I said, that's me. I've got... No, I can't say that. I've got to be serious now, because this was a serious case. This young girl, I think 16 or 17, I forget the age, was severely anorexic, and no one could actually heal her. So out of desperation, her mother took her to one of these hypnotherapists in Sydney. Because she was young, the mother had to be there with this hypnotherapist, put her into like a trance, and got her back to her previous life. And in this young woman's previous life, she described that she was the younger of two sisters in a previous life. And they both fell in love with the same guy. But her elder sister was more attractive than she was. So the guy chose to marry her elder sister. And she was heartbroken. Her elder sister won the love of her life. So she committed suicide, killed herself. And later on, that was her previous life. And later on, as she was saying this, the mother went hysterical. And this poor hypnotherapist had the girl, she was put in a trance and found out the reason for anorexia. She was trying desperately to be more attractive, what she thought was attractive. That's why she was not eating. Because before, not being attractive had ruined her life and made her commit suicide. That's how much she was suffering. But the mother was going hysterical, and the hypnotherapist, counsellor, had to counsel both of them. And when he calmed the mother down, "Why are you overreacting like that?" He said, "I'm not overreacting. I was that sister. I never told my daughter what had happened to her auntie. We both fell in love with the same guy. That's her father." And that was kind of weird, the way that karma and rebirth happened. She couldn't be with this man she loved as a young lady. Her sister married him. But when she did commit suicide, she gravitated towards that man by being his daughter. And he said, "We never told her about that. That happened before she was born, and we're embarrassed about it." But that was her. It's weird just how rebirth happens. One of the other cases of rebirth, again in Sydney, there was this, he was a Buddhist, that's how I got to know about it, that his auntie died. His auntie was very wealthy, but his auntie hated religion. All the religions people want is donations. And her son was the only religious person in the family. So when she made out her will, her nephew, this guy who was a Buddhist, got only a small amount of the inheritance. One thing he did inherit was this little mug, a crockery. Just not worth anything, but he'd inherited this from his auntie. And later on, that his wife had a son. His wife had a daughter. And he told me, he went into the room, his daughter was there, maybe 3 or 4 years of age, and he was having a cup of coffee in this mug. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy, give me my mug." It was his auntie, reborn now as his son. As his daughter. That's the trouble with reincarnation. It's in the same family. You get the genders all mixed up. And she never liked paying tax. That's why she got wealthy. And so they were driving along the freeway, or actually they call it the motorways over in Sydney. Nothing is free, they always have to pay a toll. And he pointed to a billboard, GST, it's like VAT. He said, "GST, Daddy, what does GST mean?" "Well, darling, it means that if you get, say, any money for yourself, like pocket money, you have to give 10% to the government." And she said, as a 3 or 4-year-old girl, "If I get any pocket money, I'm not giving anything to any government." And that's his little girl. There's a reincarnation, a rebirth of his auntie. Still with some of those same characteristics. One of the clearest cases of reincarnation, that was rebirth, that was of this comedian in England. Now, because I'm getting tired, what was his name again? Roy Hutt. Roy Hutt, thank you. Not Ron, but Roy. Roy Hutt was a comedian. He was a TV personality. And I remember he was very funny. He never got international, but he was always, on the TV somewhere. And apparently, that we was performing a concert or part of a comedy play in London somewhere when the government made a new one-way system. And going home after the performance, he got lost in the new one-way system. And so he went down a street he'd never been down before, until he started recognizing everything. He knew, I've lived here before. And he went to this house, and he saw one of these blue plaques on the house. When famous people have lived in a house in London, they always record it, for historical purposes. And this was a house, the words on that plaque were Dan Leno, D-A-N-L-E-N-O. And he was a famous, probably the most famous, music hall comedian in Edwardian times. And so he knocked at the door of the house. Because he was a TV personality, they recognized him straight away. Roy Hudd, what are you doing here? And he said, I used to live here. No, you didn't. We've been living here since the Second World War finished. You didn't. This is our house. And he said, I was Dan Leno. And he took them around the house. And he explained just exactly how they'd renovated the house. And just where his studio, where he practiced his act was. And they were thoroughly convinced, and so was everybody else. And he wrote this article. He was a comedian in his previous life, but much more famous in this last life. But the problem with that, when he wrote this article and it was published, I think the head of the TV station, ITV, was a very devout Catholic. And he got so angry that one of the staff he employed was saying about rebirth that he sacked him. But it doesn't matter. He got jobs being an expert on the life of Dan Leno, his previous life, writing all these books about him. He had secret knowledge of his life. So he survived okay, did Roy Hudd. But I always found just how interesting these past lives are. And there's no doubt at all. All the evidence is there. And he lost his job because of that. Anyway. Please tell me if I'm talking too much and getting bored. I'm happy. Dear Ajahn, what is the difference between eliminating identity view and eliminating conceit? Can you give some examples? Identity view is like a view. That is abandoned first. Conceit is thought. That comes later. So if you give up conceit, that's like an anagami stage. Give right identity view, that's a streamliner stage. So identity view is you can see and know very clearly this is not me, not a self, that's your sight. Not a sight, but that's your ideas. You know what Buddhism is and you understand it, but then a few times you forget. No, your thinking, the way you see the world, is conditioned, and sometimes you see it in the old ways. The only example I can give is like when people used to smoke cigarettes. You tell them, don't you know that's bad for your health? Yes, I do know it's bad for my health. They got right view. They still smoke. That right view hasn't got strong enough to get rid of those old habits. That make sense? Okay. Can a sotapanna tell a lie? Small lies, not big ones, that get people into trouble. It's the big ones which really get you into trouble. But yes, a stream winner can break the 5 precepts. But they know afterwards, and they regret it. Yeah? No, there's only about 4 questions left. So it's like you know it's wrong, but it's a habit. And then because it's a habit, it takes a longer time for the right view to change the way you think. When I was young, I was afraid of being happy because it would bring neglect or notice to things, then disaster would come. Can you explain the difference between lay people's happiness and jhana happiness? These days, people recognize and respect happiness. If you're a happy person, a lot of times you make other people happy. They like having happy people around. It actually lifts other people up if you're happy. So I don't know what's happening there, but usually happy people very easily get jobs. And even that Dr. Patch Adams, I always try and remember his name, but I remember that name. Patch Adams, he was a doctor, and he would go into the wards wearing a tutu, wearing really weird clothing, and absolutely crazy, but his antics made everybody happy. His happiness was infectious, much more infectious than COVID. Okay, 3 questions. When I meditate, most of the time, my chest felt congested and my tension headache got worse. I know it may be the breathing control, yes, which I do intentionally, but now I cannot control. Would it be harmful? How can I do to prevent this happening again? When you meditate, just let the breath do what it wants to do. Be kind to your breath. Be a friend to your breath. Be a friend to your body. This is kind of what changed my meditation. I was always like restless, and so I tried to stop my mind. I was tired, so I tried to energize my mind. When it wandered off, I'd bring it back again. For 7 years, I think, I was always putting my breath back as a monk. And I found that was useless. It never worked. So I started thinking of the cause. Why was my mind restless? And you soon figured out because I was not being kind to my breath, to my mind. I wasn't being a friend to it. You know, when you do have a good friend, you stay with them. You know, there's no effort at all. I remember that friend, the Flash Harry. I did tell you all about that story, didn't I? Why it was called Flash Harry?
Only me.
Only me, okay. This will make me happy and you happy. So he was one of my friends at Cambridge, a brilliant mathematician. So when he got a job, he eventually became not an accountant, but a actuary. One of the most highly paid jobs. And he was so good at his job, eventually became the head actuary of Europe. And accountants always have to have good behavior. And an actuary, even more good behavior. So when I met him one afternoon in London when I was visiting, I said, "How are you going, Flash?" And he said, "Ajahn Brahm, don't use that nickname." And the reason he got that nickname, and it always stays with me, because when I was young and at Cambridge, we had a party in my quarters, and he got drunk. He went to the toilet, which was just not that far away, and when he came back from the toilet, he forgot to put his trousers on. And so when he went into the party, all the girls saw this man naked from the waist down. His name was Harold, And so that was his nickname forever after. Because Flash and Harry was, I don't know why they called them Flash Harrys, but it was a well-known juxtaposition, Flash and Harry. So he became known, that was his nickname, Flash Harry. And that was when he was a student, a long time ago, but now he was the top actuary in the whole of Europe. And so he said, if they find out what I did, I'd be sacked, I'd lose all my reputation. I said, okay, I won't tell anyone, Flash. Sorry? Exactly. But it's okay, because he knows that I got up to mischief as well. And that other friend, which I often talk about, like Bernard Carr, a really close insider to Professor Stephen Hawkins, that when he came, because he's a good friend for life, came to participate in a conference in Perth, I made sure I met him first. And as we were having breakfast together, I said to him, I know your wife is here. Now we've got much information of what we did when we were young students. If you tell all my disciples what I got up to, I'm going to tell your wife what you got up to. So we make a deal, okay? I won't tell if you won't tell. We shook on it. He's a good friend. They're just young people, just messing around. But it didn't do anything nasty, just a bit embarrassing, that's all. If parent is not happy to you because of their traumatized childhood, can adult son, daughter reject their control, don't care about their feeling in greed, hatred, ignorance, but enjoy meditation, relaxation, and happiness? You can always enjoy relaxation and happiness. But I like telling the story of my father. He was abused by his father, my paternal grandfather. This was in the years of the Depression in England. And so my father's father was a plumber. And my father would never talk about him. Till one day I asked my dad, why don't you talk about your dad? And that's when my father said, please excuse the language, this is what my father said, because your grandfather was a bastard. He said that with so much anger. He said that when he came home from work, he came home late, he'd always go to the pub first of all, and he'd spend whatever money he had on beer. And when he came home, he would take off his leather belt and he'd whip anyone who he saw for no reason whatsoever. And he said many times he was on the end of that belting for doing nothing. But he could take that, but what really traumatized him was when his father, my grandfather, started whipping my father's mother, his wife, for no reason at all. And he said he loved his mother and he couldn't protect her. And he said that was just so hard to bear, much more than being on the end of that belt himself. But one thing he told me when he said this, that's the reason when you and my brother were naughty, he said, I couldn't hit you. I tried many times, but I just couldn't. So he was such a soft and caring father because he had been traumatized and physically abused. He became a very loving father. He rejected not in the way of what he experienced, he would make me experience. He realized the pain of it and would never do that. He never hit me, even though I deserved it many times. So that's another way to deal with trauma. That's what I learned from him telling me that. So just because you were traumatized, there's another way of dealing with it. You know how much it hurts, so you will never ever do that to anybody else. You're not a control freak, you're a kindness freak. Dear Ajahn, Many fortune tellers say that this year is not a good year, a year full of natural disasters and wars. What do you think? Fortune tellers, okay? There was many times when it becomes my birthday, people think, Ajahn Brahm, what can we do for you for your birthday? There was this Malaysian man, he used to be a lawyer but now could retire. So he said, you've helped me very much, especially when his son died in an electrical accident. And he said, I was talking with my wife, I want to give you a special gift which no one has actually ever given to you. And he was right. He said, I know the date of your birth, the place of your birth, and exactly the time of your birth. So I have paid a lot of money to a professional fortune teller or astrologer, and he has your horoscope personalized for the next year. And actually, you can do that. A horoscope, especially for you, they know the time of your birth, the date of the birth, where you were born, and he had it all correct. May I please read out your horoscope for the next 12 months? He had this official document, and he said, the next year, this was a few years ago, the next year for someone born in this place at this time on this date will be an excellent year for romance. I was a monk. They were wrong. I'm still a monk. So I always remember that. I should have kept a copy, but we all laughed and threw it away, even though it apparently cost him a lot of money. So I don't have much confidence in fortune tellers. And I often say, never trust a poor fortune teller. If they can't tell their own fortune, how can they tell yours? I remember just reading an article about sumo wrestlers. And the sumo wrestler, he was the top sumo wrestler in the world. Can you give us some advice? And he said, never trust a thin chef. A thin. Yeah, thin, who hasn't got any bulk like real sumo wrestlers have. If they can't feed themselves, how can they feed me? So anyway, that again is the last question. Thank you so much for bearing with me. We've gone over time. But not too much. It's only 9 o'clock. It's only half an hour over time. And you deserve that, because there were great questions and amusing questions, and thank you for asking them. So now I will go to retire. My legs were a bit sore, but thank you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Excellent. Thank you for that. So, Della, any more announcements about tomorrow? Okay.